Okay, so before we start, full disclosure and warning here, this is where things are definitely going to get a little hairy and a little complicated. So you might need to hit pause and think about things and then come back to it, or you might need to rewatch it, or you might need to shoot your teacher a message with any questions that you might have. So, we have talked about how to evaluate some resources to figure out if there'd be a good source of information or not. And now we need to talk about what do we do with that information. So once we found a source that we think is a good, reliable source, how do we lift information from those texts so that we can use that in our own writing? So the first thing I want to draw your attention to is how you would record information about your source. So you cannot just go online and copy things from a website and call it your own, because that would be plagiarism. And so you're going to need to create a source sheet. On this slide, you will see what you need to record, the information that you would need to record about a web page. I did not include how to record information from a book or an encyclopedia or a magazine because I assumed that most of what we would be using is a web page. However, if you choose to use one of those sources, please reach out to your teacher and have them share that information with you. So you'll notice for a web page, we need to record the author's names, the title of the web page, the date you accessed the web page, and the URL of the website where that page can be found. And so for my kids on my team, I have assigned through Schoology just a blank Google Doc called a source sheet, and it literally looks like this. So I'm going to go over here to one of the resources that I found. Probably not this one since it won't let me look at it. A resource that I found and how I would record that. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my article. And I notice here that it's written by Chelsea Harvey. So on my source sheet, this is the first one I'm looking at. I'm going to call this number 1. And I'm going to put her name, Chelsea Harvey. I also need to, what does it say? I need to include, wrong thing. I need to include the title of the web page and the date that I accessed it. So the title of my web page is Scientific American. So I'm going to go over here and put Scientific American. And the date that I accessed it, January 5th, 2021. What else do I need to put? I need to put the URL of the website, where the website can be found. And so the good thing about doing this digitally is I can literally just go up to my toolbar up there and copy and paste that information. And that is my first source on my source sheet. So that's like my first step. So once I've recorded my source, now it's time to dig into some information and to take some notes. And so the tool that my class is going to be using for taking notes is a Google slide that has also been shared with you as an assignment through Schoology. And when you open that document, you'll notice that you'll get little index cards, and there's several slides of index cards, and you can certainly duplicate the slides if you need more room. And so I'm going to go over back to my article, and I'm going to look for information that I might want to include. And so let's look at this first paragraph. It says, Antarctic ice shelves have lost nearly 4 trillion metric tons of ice since the mid-1990s, scientists say. So I want to make sure, and one of the things that's really easy to get into the trap of doing is I do not want to copy word for word what this author, Chelsea Harvey, has already said, because again, that would be plagiarizing. So I need to take that information and I need to put that into my own words. And so I might go over here to my note-taking thing over here, and I might decide, it says double click. So I might put, I don't know, the 90s were like, what, 20 years ago? So more than 20 years ago. How about over the last 20 years? Actually, let's do 25. 25 years, the ice shelves have lost over, I forgot what it said, 4 trillion tons of ice. Tons of ice. And I might change my spacing a little bit so that it fits on the lines. And it's a little easier to read. There you go. All right, so that's my first piece of information that I have located. And then I also want to include the source that I got that from. So remember how on your source sheet, you put a number there, and I said this was like from number 1. So on my note card, I'm actually going to put a number 1 down there. So I know that that is the source that I got that information from. And so today, your job is going to be, got a big job today, to start finding some sources of information. I'm going to ask you to start creating your source sheet. So once you've located those reliable sources of information, and then you are going to need to go ahead and you are going to need to start practicing, maybe, and trying taking some note taking, some things that are important. So how do you know what's important or what you want to write down? Think about the questions that you and your partner were asking. What is it that you want to know about this topic? You might think about what is it, like what is most important for people to know about this topic, and use that to kind of guide your research questions. And then I cannot stress to you enough the importance of putting those parts in your own words. So read it, kind of summarize it, put it in your own language, put it on your note card, and do not forget to write down the number of the source that it came from. So today I would ask that you spend, obviously this is something that we're going to spend several days on. So I'm going to ask you to set a timer, and let's shoot for like 15, 20 minutes and see what you come up with today. And if you have any questions, even if you're at home, I would encourage you to rewatch the video, maybe do it step by step, and reach out to your teacher if you need help.